Hey guys, my name is Rachel and you're watching The Sailing Siren.
I've been documenting my freediving journey from having no formal freediving experience and having never taken a freediving course, all the way up to getting certified as an SSI Level 2 freediving instructor. In this video, I'm going to discuss what it was like taking the SSI freediving instructor course and my progression towards accomplishing the instructor requirements.
You might find this video interesting if you're looking to progress quickly in your freediving or you're interested in what it takes to get ready for a freediving instructor course.
I will go over some of the things that worked for me to reach a 4-minute breath hold and dive to 40 meters, and I'll also give you an overview of some of my biggest challenges in this journey and what helped me to overcome them. Stay tuned to this channel because in the next few weeks I'll be discussing the frequency of freediving related injuries and accidents that occurred during my internship, as well as tips for finding a good freediving internship for you.
If you're crammed for time, I've included timestamps in the video description below so you can get to the info you want quickly. Okay, are you ready? Let's dive in. Last winter, I decided to drop everything, move to the Philippines, and pursue freediving. My reasons for doing this were twofold.
First, being able to freedive is super useful as a sailor for disentangling fishing nets and checking that the anchor is holding well. Second, I work as a mermaid and stunt performer, and I wanted to increase my depth and breath hold time to make myself more marketable as a performance artist.
With these two goals in mind, I jumped in with very little knowledge of what I was getting myself into. I had a pretty rough start to my freediving courses, and you can see my experiences as I made videos about each one.
While the SSI Level 1 course was projected to take 2 to 3 days, it actually took me 4 days due to equalization issues, which are actually pretty common.
Technically, by all accounts, you could say I failed my Level 1 course.
However, this experience taught me quite a bit as I learned everything that I could about anatomy and physiology, equalizing techniques, and troubleshooting why I was having equalization issues.
Let this also be a lesson to other new freedivers that just because it took you longer than normal to complete your course requirements, it doesn't mean that you're a bad freediver or that freediving isn't for you. You just need to find patient and knowledgeable instructors to help you troubleshoot your issues. If you're taking a freediving course while you're on vacation, I would recommend blocking out at least a week to complete the course requirements. That way you can learn the concepts on your own time and you aren't pressured to meet any requirements on a deadline. I'm very thankful that I had instructors who didn't pressure me to meet the course requirements until I felt ready, and I'm going to be discussing this in a future video about how to choose a right freediving center for you.
The SSI Level 2 course was projected to take me 3 to 4 days, but it ended up taking me 5 days as I continued to be plagued with equalization issues.
By the end of my Level 2 course, I had figured out the majority of my equalization issues, including conditioning my eustachian tubes and sinuses for freediving, avoiding foods and habits that interfered with my ability to equalize, and really getting a grasp on how my anatomy affected my freediving.
I also got to experience freefall for the first time, which I disliked at first but started to appreciate once I began to dive deeper. My Level 3 course was relatively uneventful as I had been training a solid 1.5 months and had worked out my equalization issues. I spent another 1.5 months doing the Freedive Academy Panglao Master Program, which is self-guided learning where you were training with other advanced freedivers.
Sometimes these freedivers were freshly certified Level 3 students or an equivalent for another agency, or they were competitive freedivers, instructors, and instructor trainers. If there's anything that I learned about master programs, it can be that they are very beneficial for your learning if you have experienced people to learn from, or they can be really challenging to your education if you have very few people to train with. If you're thinking about joining a master program, really do your research ahead of time. Get an idea of who you're going to be training with and what their experience levels are. Okay, so now for those requirements to be an SSI Level 2 freediving instructor. There are less strict requirements to be a Level 1 instructor, but I'm not going to go over them in this video. Please keep in mind that these are for SSI and the requirements may vary depending on what agency you decide to become an instructor with.
I've broken them down into swimming requirements, pool discipline requirements, rescue requirements, and depth requirements. The 3 swimming requirements are swimming 400 meters in less than 10 minutes, snorkeling 800 meters in less than 15 minutes in full freediving gear, and treading water for 15 minutes. From cycling, running, and rock climbing back home in the US, I had a fairly solid foundation for fitness before the internship and was able to meet these requirements from the beginning. To maintain my fitness level in the internship, I did daily bodyweight exercises like push-ups and pull-ups, as well as fun dives or swimming back to shore 600 meters after the training sessions.
Throughout the internship, I'd periodically swim 400 meters and snorkel 800 meters just to see that I can meet the time requirements.
I did each of the pool requirements the week before my instructor course one more time just to reassure myself that I could, and I went into the course fully confident that I could meet them.
While the swimming requirements were easy for me, I know that other interns did have some difficulty with these requirements. However, with dedicated training, they were able to meet these requirements at the end of their internship without an issue.
The pool requirements to become an SSI Level 2 instructor include a 4-minute static breath hold, a 50-meter dynamic dive without fins, and an 85-meter dynamic dive with fins. By the end of my Level 1 course, I had a 336 static breath hold, and before my instructor course, I had a 446 static breath hold.
As you'll see in a little bit, my lack of progression in depth was compensated for by a very quick progression in the increase of my static time. Unfortunately, the quick progression in my static breath holds also came with a poor understanding of what my body was telling me.
I experienced my first and hopefully only freediving blackout. Hypoxia from a lack of conditioning was my limiting factor rather than my mind. I went from being conscious and competent to incapable of coming up for air in less than 10 seconds.
What I've learned from this experience is to progress slowly. From my instructors, I learned that a good rule of thumb is to progress no more than 10 to 15 seconds for statics in a training session and no more than 5 meters in dynamics per training session. The plus side is that I know fairly well how hypoxia manifests in me, and I've also done a lot of research on freediving related blackouts and rescues so I could learn how to be a better safety for others during training sessions.
By my Level 3 course, I was confidently doing 75-meter dynamic dives, and 1 week before my instructor course, I was able to comfortably perform a 100-meter dynamic dive. I only did dynamic dives during my freediving courses and the 2 weeks before the instructor course.
If I could do anything differently, I'd consider doing 2 to 3 dynamic dives per week during the instructor internship, just to build up the mental confidence as you're going to be under more stress during the instructor course.
For the rescue requirements, you need to be able to rescue a blacked out diver from 20 meters and tow them on the surface for 50 meters while doing rescue breaths. And you need to be able to dive down to 20 meters, do a 1-minute hang at 20 meters, and then rescue someone and initiate proper rescue protocol after reaching the surface.
To prepare for these requirements, I reviewed my rescue protocol on a regular basis. I kept my conditioning up and I did a 1-minute hang at 20 meters about 1 week prior to the instructor course just so I knew what to expect. When I performed the rescue with the 1-minute hang in the instructor course, I did get contractions, but it was easier than I thought it would be. The rescue with a 50-meter tow is tiring, but it's definitely doable as long as you keep your conditioning and fitness up.
To be an SSI Level 2 instructor, you need to be able to do a constant weight dive comfortably to 40 meters, as well as a 5x20, which is 5 dives to 20 meters with a 1-minute break in between each dive.
Both of these requirements were challenging mentally, but the 5x20 wasn't too challenging in the physical sense. I did a 5x15 about 1 week before the course, and I felt super strong with no contractions. The biggest tip that I got for this requirement is to be as slow and relaxed as possible during your dives. There is no time requirement for the dive itself, only for the 1-minute rest break in between, so there's no point in sprinting your dive.
I know of others who found this requirement to be a challenge. If you're wanting to do the SSI instructor course, I'd plan to do this at least a month before the course to give yourself a baseline and adjust your training accordingly.
The big 40 meters. So I built this number up in my head way more than I needed to, but on the plus side, a healthy respect for depth and a slow and steady progression means that I didn't have a single lung or trachea squeeze during my entire 4 months of training.
I got up to 34 meters before the instructor course, but as we didn't have depth sessions for almost 2 weeks, I had to start at 25 meters after the instructor course and slowly work my way back up to 40 meters, with a final constant weight PB of 40.9 meters at the end of the internship. A healthy progression for me was a 3-day dive cycle with 1 to 2 days of rest in between. Day 1 of the cycle was a new PB, day 2 was constant weight dives to my previous PB, and day 3 was repetitive dives to my new PB. I never progressed more than 3 meters in a single session, and usually kept the progressions at 1 to 2 meters per session.
If I got contractions on the way down, it was a good sign that my body wasn't ready to go deeper. So in that case, I would stay at that depth until the contractions went away, working on technique and building up confidence.
When I got to 35 meters and above, I started doing more FRC dives to acclimate to depth and to practice mouthfill, as I found myself running out of air to equalize with at 34 meters and below on regular Frenzel. I experimented with taking my mouthfill between 15 and 20 meters and found that 20 meters worked best for me.
Now I know that many people say that you should be able to Frenzel way below 40 meters, but I'm just telling you what worked for me. I'd really recommend getting some coaching from an experienced freediver or a freediving instructor rather than relying on YouTube for your sole source of education. Videos are a great way to supplement your knowledge, but I'd really recommend taking that knowledge that you learn and bouncing it off of an experienced freediver or an instructor that you trust.
My instructor course was 2 weeks long and exhausting, but we did take a rest day in the middle. First, let's go over the academic requirements to pass the instructor course. You have to get 90% or greater on 5 mini-exams that cover the SSI course standards, the material in the SSI Instructor Manual, and the SSI Level 1 and Level 2 course theory. You have to pass the Level 1 and the Level 2 course theory tests with a 90% or better as well.
The more review that you can do of the materials before the course, the more prepared you'll be and the more time you'll have to work on presentations. And catch up on sleep. That was a joke.
Much of my time outside of the course was spent working on academic, pool, and open water presentations. The topics that the instructor candidates had to present on were given at the end of each day, and we were to present them the following day. I spent many nights up late working on presentations and reviewing course material for quizzes.
This is probably the biggest critique that I have about the course. I would have loved to get my course topics early, but from speaking to other instructors and instructor trainers, getting your topics the day before you present them is kind of the norm. This is why you should have a solid understanding of the theory and the standards prior to entering the course. Be prepared to fail at least one presentation, be it academic, pool, or open water. After we successfully passed all of our academic presentations, it was time to begin pool and open water presentations, where you were assigned several skills to teach. This is one area where you can prepare for ahead of time during your lower level courses in your master program.
Learn what constitutes good technique, as you'll be required to demonstrate instructor level competency for various skills, and you'll need to find and correct improper technique. In the following slides, I've listed out some of the skills you may be required to demonstrate. Pause this video and make sure that you can demonstrate each of these skills with perfection. In the next few slides, I've included some of the common mistakes that you should be able to watch out for and correct.
Now, for those who have already gone through the course, you may be saying, I didn't do any of that preparation and I'm still an instructor. Great, it's true. You probably don't need to prepare this in depth if you don't want to. These are just my tips for knowing the theory, the standards, and the freediving skills at a level that I personally want to be able to teach at.
As both of the instructor candidates that were with me ended up getting sick at the beginning of the course, we had to do the depth requirements towards the end of the course after taking a significant break from serious training. This is why it's better to have a solid base fitness level, and if you can, be able to complete the course physical requirements with ease before you start your instructor course. As my personal best in depth before the course was 34 meters, I was told not to worry about completing this requirement during the course. I booked out an extra month after the instructor course to complete course requirements and get more experience, and I'm happy to say that I successfully met the depth requirements several times with ease before I ended the internship.
So, do I recommend Zero to Hero programs? It definitely depends on what you're trying to get out of the course. You definitely need to be around experienced freediving instructors and knowledgeable freedivers to make the most of your time and money. Zero to Hero internships are a great way to progress quickly. However, they're also a great way to progress too quickly and get yourself into an accident.
I will be posting about the frequency of freediving related injuries and accidents that occurred during my internship in my next video.
If you're looking to do a Zero to Hero internship in order to get a job, this can be a bit trickier. Ask for opportunities for employment at the center that you plan to do your internship at.
While there are many new instructors who are fortunate to receive jobs at the centers that they completed their internships, the more common sentiment is that you aren't going to be a hero after 3 to 4 months, and it'll be harder to get a job at a center that doesn't know you. The reality is that Zero to Hero programs bring in a lot of money to a dive center, and it's important to do your research so you can get the education you're investing your energy and hard-earned money into.
More on choosing a good Zero to Hero program from reputable centers in a few weeks. Thanks for tagging along in my freediving journey, and I hope that you've learned as much as I have and still am. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a diver who might find this information useful.
Within the next year, I plan to continue freediving and sharing unique dive spots from around the world to explore for freedivers. I want to enter a few more competitions, and I want to continue training and learning more about freediving. Stay tuned, because in the next few weeks, I'll be posting on the frequency of freediving related injuries and accidents, finding a solid Zero to Hero internship, and freediving related literature and studies that might be useful for your training.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to find good content to help you in your progression in freediving. If you have any topics that you want me to cover in an upcoming blog post, please let me know about it in the comments below. Alrighty, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.